Culture guides communication. With the advent of globalization, we meet and interact people with diverse cultural background, such as customary behaviors, cultural assumptions and values, patterns of thinking and communicative styles. Thus, it is very important to expose ourselves with varied cultures of different countries to appreciate cultural diversity. Hi class, let's talk about communication in multicultural settings. For the learning objectives, you are expected to define culture, familiarize various cultures of the world, differentiate cultural categories, characterize multiculturalism, describe Edward Hall's model of culture, and identify the basic etiquettes across the world. Okay, so let's have first a short showcase of world's cultures. Let's guess the country in which it belongs. Okay, so for the first one, we have here some sort of festival. Okay, yes, it's the Day of the Dead in Mexico. So this festival class is featured in the animated movie Coco. I don't know if you watched it. It's a very beautiful movie. Okay? This one, very familiar. Yes, it's the mummification of Egypt. Third one we have here the Hindu gods of India. Okay? Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Okay? So this is actually your culture. It's the Singkil dance in the Philippines. No? It's your culture, the Maranaos. And yes, it's the One Piece anime and manga from Japan. Okay? Last but not the least, okay, the Oppa in South Korea. So all of these class are part of the culture of a particular country. Okay, so what is culture? Yes, culture, without further ado, is the shared language, manners, customs, beliefs, rituals, ceremonies, laws, ideas, thought patterns, arts, tools, social institutions, religious beliefs, myths and legends, knowledge, values, a concept of self, morals, ideals, and accepted ways of behaving. So it's the total way of life class. In other words, culture is all about us. Okay? Now, there are two categories of culture. The first one we have material culture. So it is the physical objects, resources, and spaces that people use to define their culture. This includes homes, neighborhoods, cities, schools, churches, synagogues, temples, mosques, offices, factories and plants, tools, means of production, goods and products, stores, and so forth. For example, chopsticks, right? Laptops, mosque, jeepney, kwek kwek, yes, that's the Filipinos, and the bonsai of Japan. Next, we have non-material culture. The non-physical ideas that people have about their culture, including beliefs, values, rules, norms, morals, language, organizations, and institutions. For instance, the concept of the prayer of the Muslims, the bayanihan in our culture, the wedding practice of the Hindus, and the funeral of the Vikings. These beliefs and practices determine how the culture responds to its issues and events. Now, class, considering the vastness of the world, how much do you know about its culture? So, are you confident in saying that you know all cultures of the world? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, this question, class, is related to the concept of multiculturalism. Yes. How do we define multiculturalism? So it's the view that cultures, races, and ethnicities, particularly those of minority groups, deserve special acknowledgement of their differences within a dominant political culture. So it refers to society that has many various cultures live together. It can also refer to the view that cultural differences should be respected or even encouraged. In other words, whatever your culture is, you must accept it and how it is different with other cultures. Now, class, I highlighted here minority groups. Who are these minority groups? Okay, so Lois Worth defined a minority group as a group of people who, because of their physical and cultural characteristics, are singled out from others in the society in which they live for differential and unequal treatment, and who therefore regard themselves as objects of collective discrimination. On the other hand, majority group refers to the group who are considered to be the most powerful in a particular place. So in the Philippines, the dominant ethnic group, both politically and culturally, is the Tagalog, while minority groups include Cebuanos, Marnaos, Hiligaynos, Badjaos, and Ilongas. So many minority groups, class, have experienced discriminations in the past and even until now. Alright, okay. So yes, globalization makes it possible for us to interact with people from different cultures. However, cultural diversity makes communication difficult as the mindset of people of different cultures is different. Language, signs, and symbols are also different. Different cultures have various meaning of words, behaviors, and gestures. So sometimes it may result to ethnocentrism and xenocentrism. Let's define each. So ethnocentrism, class, it refers to the person's view, which entails that his culture is superior than others. So how is it manifested? For example, class, some Tagalog people call Cebuanos Inday, which denotes being a maid or having a low life. So with this alone, we can perceive that some Tagalogs perceive Cebuanos as inferior to them. Okay, so they view their culture, they view themselves as superior to Cebuano people. Okay, the second one is xenocentrism. Xenocentrism is the opposite of ethnocentrism. Okay, so it is viewing one's culture as inferior to others. So how is this manifested? For example, class, Filipinos, some of us, prefer American or Korean practices and products over our own. So we see foreigners as some sort of special. Okay, so we prefer their culture over our own. Alright. So when people belonging to different cultures communicate, these factors can become barriers. Okay? Yes, culture affects communication. Okay. Now, Edward Hall developed the iceberg analogy of culture in 1976. In Hall's model, he compared culture to an iceberg. Like an iceberg, there are some aspects in culture that are visible above the water, hidden larger portion in the surface that are not visible, and cultures that are common to humanity. Hall categorized culture into visible culture, this one, the invisible culture, and the culture which is common to humanity. Okay? Visible culture or cultures that others can plainly see in their eyes. This includes food, art, dance, language, and tradition. On the other hand, invisible culture are the internal or subconscious parts of culture below the surface of a society, including some beliefs, values, and worldview patterns that underlie behavior. Now, we need to take note, class, that beliefs, values, and worldview are different. What's the difference? Okay? Belief class is an idea that a person holds as being true. So it comes from different sources, including a person's own experiences or experiments, acceptance of cultural and societal norms, and what other people say. For example, our religion, which describes our faith in God, and the characterization of God. No? Second, values. Values are stable, long-lasting beliefs about what is important to a person. They become standards by which people order their lives and make their choices. For example, the value of caring and empathizing towards other people. So care and empathy determines meaningful relationships. That's why people put so much regard in it. Okay? Lastly, we have worldview. Worldview is based on value system and culture and is constructed socially in a community. For example, the idea of human nature, man is basically good, but because of culture and civilization, he becomes bad and corrupted. Another example, no matter how miserable life becomes, life has still meaning, and man lives to find this meaning. So a worldview class, again, is a conclusive and consistent picture of how the world operates. Okay, so let's proceed with the third level of culture. So it's the culture that is common to humanity. It refers to behaviors and beliefs that are tend to be shared by all people in all groups across the globe, such as mother's love to her children or the feeling of pain when someone we love dies. Alright. Okay. So, without further ado, let's have the basic etiquettes across the world. So the tagline here is mind your manners. Okay, so remember these etiquettes because in the future you may travel in these countries that we are going to mention. Okay, remember them. Alright, so the first one is burping. Burping after meal in Eastern countries. Eastern countries, Syria, Egypt, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and Iran. Okay, so there, burping is perfectly acceptable because it indicates that you enjoy the meal. Second one, okay, so this is kinda unique. Okay, so in sub-Saharan Africa, one way to say hello is spitting. So spitting is not rude, but a form of affection, good luck, or reverence or respect. Okay? Okay. So in Middle East, shaking with the left hand is considered rude or offensive because in the Middle East, they use it for wiping after using the bathroom. Okay, so never use your left hand in shaking if you are in Middle East class. Alright, so here we have showing the sole of the shoe. No, in Arab countries, it's deemed insulting. Why? Because the sole of the shoe is dirty and showing it is highly insulting. Thus, one must remove it before entering places of worship, homes, and other buildings. In Japan class, giving tip is offensive. Why? Because it indicates that your service is not good enough. Thus, they give you money to get some training. Alright, next. So, yes, slurping of food in China is okay. So, it's a great compliment to the chef because it is the equivalent of saying, this is absolutely delicious. Alright. In Venezuela class, being late is being polite, because if you come too early for an event, it means you are too eager to eat the food or too greedy. Okay, in Japan again. No? In Japan, filling your own glass suggests greediness or narcissism. Okay? So it also means being anti-social. So don't pour wine or beverage in your own glass. Okay? Alright. So, class, before I end this presentation, let me repeat that culture is inseparable with communication. Okay? So, culture and communication shapes each other. With this, we can say that culture is communication and communication is culture. Okay, so for the activity class, I entitled it Culture Presentation. So make a 3 to 5 minute video record of yourself explaining 3 various cultures from different countries. So I hope that you exempt those examples that we already mentioned. Okay? Make it as creative as possible. You upload it in YouTube and linked it to Edmodo. Do not forget to indicate your name and section. For the criteria, so content, I give it 20 points, creativity 10 points, originality 10 points, a total of 40 points. Okay, so thank you very much, class. This ends our lesson.